All right, in this week's episode of Magnifier, we are honored to be joined by Sir Darren Jacklin. How are we doing?
I'm grateful to be here.
Awesome. So I always let the guests introduce themselves, and I listened to an episode that you were on recently. It was from a few years back, but you gave this great story arc of your career and the kind of ups and downs. If you could kind of repeat that for our audience so they can hear. And the reason I enjoyed it so much was that people have this perception that success is linear. But you kind of spoke to the fact that actually it's not. And there are going to be ups and downs, and particularly for real estate agents, they need to hear that. So if you could just jump in, give everybody a bit of background on who you are, and we'll get to the conversation.
Yes, I'll share my backstory, the come up story, and the success story.
Perfect.
Backstory, really unique. Grew up in a city of less than 20,000 people in population, middle income family. I'm Canadian, so I grew up in a place called Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Canada.
I read that and I was like, I'm not going to try and pronounce that.
In fact, if you come from the province of Saskatchewan, Canada, people know it as Speedy Creek. That's the nickname, Speedy Creek, which is Swift Current. But it's actually a creek that runs through the city, and they named it Swift Current, a swift current flowing of water. But they nicknamed it Speedy Creek. And so grew up there and failed grade 1 of public school, was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. And so the school system and school district determined that I should go into what we call special education. So I was in special ed from grade 1 all the way through to grade 12. So that really affected my self-identity, my self-confidence, my self-worth. So when I was 7 years of age, I created my first business called Rent a Kid. And in fact, I just spoke, this is when I was 7. I'm 51 today. And just yesterday, I spoke to both the young guys that helped me build my little Rent-A-Kid business when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. We're still great friends to this day, 40 plus years later, almost 45 years later. And so we go around our neighborhood cutting grass, shoveling sidewalks, delivering newspapers. And what I realized was that we do not have money problems in life. We only have thinking problems in life. There's no lack of financial money in the world. It's just by solving problems and being of service to people is a fair means of exchange. So we were going knocking on doors in our neighborhood, just finding ways that we could do odd jobs to collect some money that day to go out and buy candy or do whatever we wanted to do with it as kids. And so, going through elementary school, struggled, being in special education, got into junior high school, ended up running the school store in junior high school, got through junior high school, got into grade 11, was taken out of class one day by a guidance counselor and a school teacher. They brought me to the guidance counselor's office. And they said, Darren, if you graduate from grade 12, because you're a D student, you're one of the lowest performing kids in the high school. If you graduate from grade 12, what do you plan to do with your life? And so I want to travel the world. I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a lot of fun. I want to make a big difference in the world. Money was never the driver. I wanted freedom and I wanted to make options and choices. I wanted to live life on my own terms. Right? I wanted to go to bed when I was tired. I wanted to wake up when I was done sleeping. And I wanted to do that consistently. And I just wanted freedom because all my life as a kid, I was micromanaged and told what to do, and I was mislabeled and misdiagnosed. And so I had some trauma around that. And so I said I want to do some great things. And the teacher and the guidance counselor looked at each other and said, well, you're never going to get a college degree or university degree. You're probably going to get a job with a union or government or work in a factory or work in a farm. And that's where you're kind of headed. So when I did graduate from grade 12, I had no direction, no focus, no purpose. And so I had a lot of negative self-talk, wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, didn't feel loved, didn't feel appreciated, a lot of trauma. And so what I did was I did multiple suicide attempts by driving my car at 140 kilometers an hour, or 85 miles an hour towards a telephone pole. And I would premeditate this and practice this over and over and over and over again over about a 6-month period. And my final suicide attempt by driving my car at a high rate of speed, I stopped my car and said, I can't do this. I got scared. So what I did was I actually drove to a nonprofit organization, which was a 24-hour crisis line, and I rang the doorbell and I turned myself in. And I said, I can't do this. And so they offered me some guidance counseling and some training. And then they introduced me to a Dale Carnegie training program back in the 1990s. And from the Dale Carnegie training, I got introduced to Toastmasters. And these two world-class organizations started to shape and change my environment and my associations of who I was around. It gave me a different context for a different environment. And then I had people starting to believe in me when I didn't believe in myself. And that started to push me up thinking, wow, okay, I can be good enough. I can be smart enough. I can be worthy enough. And I had one lady in my Toastmasters group named Sue Urquhart. One day she said, I believe that she says, I believe this Toastmasters organization has a chance to mentor and coach Darren Jacklin to becoming a world-class speaker. I'm thinking, well, who are you? You don't even know who I am, but she believed more in me than I believed in myself, this woman. And what was unique was that I ended up going to get a job as a telemarketer for minimum wage dollars. And I was phoning across Canada. I was making 400 cold calls a day, 2,000 cold calls a week. And I was selling magazine subscriptions over the telephone back in the early 1990s. I was dialing for dollars between 5 and 9 p.m. At the end of 7 months, my boss came to me, Glenn, and he said, Darren, this is a dead-end road. We can't pay anymore. You're not going anywhere here. I suggest you leave here and pursue a corporate training business. Go start dialing companies across Canada. Start calling them out of the telephone books and start setting up speaking engagements to go in and do training for companies to help them grow and scale and build their companies. I was terrified because I need the paycheck, because I was living paycheck to paycheck. So my boss, Glenn, actually forced me out the door a few weeks later because he believed more in me than I believed in myself. Went and got a stack of telephone books back in the 1990s. And I, between 1995 and the year 2000, made over 100,000 cold calls. Most of them are rejection calls, but 98% rejection, 2% conversion. So massive amounts of rejection. But I developed a lot of thick skin, and I became like rejection proof.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because some of these companies that I was following up with was 17 years of consistent follow-up and rejection before they finally said yes and wrote a check to bring me in. And I ended up, from 1995 to the year 2015, traveling the world multiple times, training, developing over 1 million people in live training development events, trained 157 of the Fortune 100 companies, and trained in 50 different countries on 4 continents, and met a lot of the who's who around the world, a lot of the influential people across Canada, United States of America, internationally. So I built a massive network of a lot of people by building relationship equity, got to know, like, and trust me. And what I realized was that as I was traveling, there were certain things that if I do them, I would produce different results. I'll give you an example. One thing is, when I first started, I was very transactional. Right? I was, I call somebody, pitch and sell them, then they'd terminate the phone call. And it was just dialing for dollars. So I was very transactional. A lot of times on social media today, people are transactional on LinkedIn and Facebook. They friend request you and they send you a message and they try and pitch and sell you on their product or service or business opportunity. It's transactional. What I realized was, if I shift from being transactional to relational, where people get to know me and like me and trust me, and I start making relationship equity deposits where I start to create an exchange and get them to know me and like me and trust me over time, then possibly business will get developed and a friendship will get created, and then referrals and endorsements and recommendations, things that would start to unfold through that relationship over time. And so I built this corporate training business, and then I was flying from San Francisco to New York one day on United Airlines in 2011, writing down, I have over 7,000 written goals for my life, and I wrote down that one of my dreams, big goals, was to get onto paid advisory boards and paid boards of directors of public and private companies. Now, again, I have no MBA, no PhD, nothing from any college or university, just street smart business school, overcoming a lot of adversities, failures, challenges, setbacks, and rejection. Also, so I wrote that down. And which was interesting, in my 20s, I was homeless. I lived on the streets for a period of time. I was on welfare. I actually co-signed two loans for 2 guys for a business one time, a startup company, as the co-signer. Signed a GSA, a general security agreement, and the guys took off, didn't take on the responsibility and accountability. And I got my car repossessed. I got evicted. I owed all kinds of money. And so I know what it's like. I've actually had an R9 credit rating, which, if you look at through Equifax and TransUnion Credit, do a little bit of research on that. An R9 credit rating is the worst possible credit score you can get on their metric system in terms of a scoring system. It's an R9. So I went from an R9 credit score to now achieving a lot of success later on in my life. And so I've had a lot of adversity, a lot of pain, a lot of setbacks. But in 2011, when I was on that flight that day, I wrote down I wanted to get on a paid advisory by paid boards of directors. What was interesting was 2 years later, I had a very wealthy family here in Canada who I'd known for over 30 years, still good friends to this day with them. They called me up and said, hey, Darren, we're in the discovery process and looking to invest in this residential real estate startup company. Okay. Would you fly back at your own financial expense and be part of our due diligence team, volunteer your time? So I went to a couple friends of mine. I'm like, oh my gosh, this wealthy family I know wants me to volunteer my time and be part of their dream team and look at this company. And some people in my network are saying, why would you go back? Why aren't they paying your travel expenses? And to me, my mindset was, hey, I want to have a seat at the table and I want to be in the conversation. Because the key thing is, as human beings, all we are is a network of conversations, right? Anything we want in our lives is going to come from having conversations with people. Because inside having a lot of conversations, opportunities get created. So I just wanted to have a seat at the table, wanted to be in the conversation. So I spent about 7 months going back and forth with this family as part of the discovery process and due diligence process. Then after that, we had to make a decision. I said, yes, invest in this company. It was a startup residential real estate company. I love the founder. I love the business model. I love what they were doing, how they were serving the real estate agents. And this company was only in Washington State and Arizona, and had no money, building airplanes for flying it. And so they asked me if I would consider joining the board of directors and take an equity position because they didn't have the money to pay me. So I became an independent board of directors member in 2013. And we took that little company from a startup to going to NASDAQ to doing over $1 billion market cap of trading, our first day of trading. Today, it's a multi-billion-dollar company with over 90,000 people in 24 countries on 5 continents. It's called eXp Realty.
Yeah,
and it's just been incredible. So that, I spent 10 years on the board of directors of that company, changed my life in many ways. We've had an influence and impact on many, many real estate agents and brokers and communities around the world. We've influenced, impacted a lot of people's lives through ripple of impact. And it really built my belief and confidence of what we could do, because in the early days, we had no money, startup company, building airplanes or flying it, competing against the biggest real estate brands in North America and internationally that have been around for decades with deep financial pockets and brand awareness and brand recognition as household names. And here we came from nothing over a decade of time and grew up to one of the fastest growing residential real estate companies today in the world. And so did very well with my equity position on that company. And then that allowed me to then go ahead and open up and create an international foundation with Tatiana and I, love of my life. So we're in Canada, USA, we're an international foundation called Link Foundation. And right now we're building schools around the world for the most impoverished children on the planet. Because if you do a humanitarian trip and you ask people in a village around the world, what's something that we can do to give you a gift? They say knowledge or education, right? Because education will lead us to poverty. It can help decrease human and child sex trafficking. It can help provide for the next generation. And so what I do currently now is, I traveled the world for 25 years as a very successful professional speaker, did very, very well. I still speak at college, universities, and businesses around the world when my time allows, my calendar. I serve on multiple different paid boards of directors of public and private companies today internationally, which I love to see grow and scale, because it really changes people's thinking, right? When you go from a startup with no money to a multi-billion-dollar company, everything changes. The teams of people that you're around, it takes a team of people to make this happen. Your teams is so important, because, when people always ask me, they go, Darren, you have over 7,000 written goals. How are you going to achieve all those goals in your lifetime? I said, not. Because most of my goals and dreams do not require my actions. It's all about creating team and teamwork, hiring virtual assistants, and now using artificial intelligence. So there's all kinds of systems and processes and strategies that we can use to actually fulfill on those to keep achieving the results. And so the key thing is, a lot of times in life, people always say, well, how am I going to do this? People get stuck in howville. How?
Yeah.
The key thing is who. Who can you get access to that can help you grow your business? Like, I was in an Uber the other day, and the guy outside of Uber has his own limo business. He does his own private concierge business. I said, who right now in your city could help fill your pipeline of constant, consistent leads? So you're driving 24/7, 365 with yourself and a few other drivers. If you want to take a day or two off, you can. You got other drivers. Who is it? So I want you to think, while you're driving Uber over the next few hours, who right now can you reach out to that you probably don't even know? But through a network of conversations, you can have conversations with people to help create a joint venture or street partnership to help you grow and develop that. It's a win-win environment. And that's the key thing, is building teams of people. I've done what I've done now through teams of people. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. I have a whole list of questions. I don't even know I'll get to them all, but just because you said so many great things there. First thing that really caught my ear was the idea of being transactional versus relational, because that was a mistake I made when I'm a real estate agent on the side when I'm not doing my day job with eXp. And when I was first in the business, I got out of it for a little while. When I was first in it, I was very transactional. I didn't think about taking the time to build the relationships. And I've seen over time why that is so important and how it can open doors for you. And then the second thing that you mentioned there was just getting a seat at the table. Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out, that they think that they need to go into a relationship or go into an opportunity and be given something immediately, right? Whereas
Mhm.
oftentimes it's just being at the table, being around the right sorts of people that can then give you the opportunities to get what you want and what you need. How do you think that can apply to real estate agents outside of the things I just said in today's market?
For sure.
Where can they look for those opportunities? Who can they look
Absolutely.
to be around? Back to your point about who, not how.
Yeah, great question. So when you're out and about in the public, let's say you're getting a haircut, you're at the grocery store, you're at the dry cleaner, you're at the gas station, petrol station, right? Everywhere you go, you're having a network of conversations with people. And one of the things you
Yeah.
can always leave with is, I'm just curious, who do you know right now is looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Because as human beings, we're always buying, selling, investing in real estate. Things are always happening in people's lives, right? I always say to people, we're either coming from a problem, we're in a problem, or we're heading towards a problem. That's the condition of being a human being, right? If you look at the next 7 days of your life, you're either coming from a problem, you're in a problem, or you're heading towards a problem. And what I mean by that specifically is that people as human beings are always dealing with circumstances and challenges, right? You got aging parents that have to downsize. You got somebody that loses a job or finds a job. Somebody falls in love in a relationship or ends a relationship. So people are always moving, right? So people are always looking to buy, sell, and invest in real estate. So there's always things going on in the real estate market, whether there's on market that we see on the internet, you see multiple listings, or there's off market deals. But real estate deals are always happening. So the key thing is what you want to do is through a network of conversations, be in communication. We're in one of the greatest times in history right now where so many people feel disconnected, alone, isolated, even though right at their fingertips they have the internet, but they're so disconnected from connecting with other human beings. People are starving. You hear this saying on the internet, people today are drowning in knowledge, but they're starving for wisdom. People are also starving for connection, authentic and vulnerable relationships. So real estate agents love to network. They love to talk to people, right? Because they're in the people business. So the key thing is just having more and more conversations. But the key thing is checking in on how people are doing in these changing marketing condition times. I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. I sent a text message this morning to a gentleman who I said, hey, James, thinking about you. I love you and just want you to know you're on my heart. I said a prayer for you this morning. I hope you have a blessed week. I appreciate you and believe in you. Within 3 minutes of me sending that text message to him, he called me to thank me. And then he says, hey, I've got this opportunity I'm working on. Would you consider us setting up a call in the next couple of weeks in our calendars and we can discuss it further? I wasn't approaching him for a business opportunity or being involved in a project or having a seat at the table. All I did was I wanted to bless him and serve him because we're all dealing with stuff, right? We've all got things going on in our lives. But the thing is, it's just that moment of contact just to reach out. Hey, I said a prayer for you, thinking about you, believe in you. I've got your back. Hey, if you ever want to talk about something, I'm here for you. I'm on speed dial. Just let people know that you care about them, that you believe in them, that you got their back, and build those authentic relationships with people. And that's the key thing is when you go from a place of contribution and service. And listen, I've been flat broke multiple times. And I know it's like that, man, like I'm 4 days away from paying my rent. I'm not going to pay my rent on time. Like, man, I got to go out there and hustle and grind, man. And then I've got commission breath because I'm going to these networking events and I'm so transactional. People know that I've got commission breath because I'm just trying to close a deal, right? Because I got to pay my bills on time. And what happens is that people become repelled versus attracted to you. And that's the key thing is a self-awareness. And this used to be a blind spot for me. I'd be out there networking with lots of people and one of the things I learned, and I'll share with you and your audience is that, so I had a major breakthrough as a big blind spot for years ago, that I was pitching and selling people all the time. And I was raising money one time for a startup company with a accredited investor, a high net worth investor for $50,000. And he actually stopped me and told me to stop pitching and selling and start educating and informing. And so when we're buying or selling or investing in real estate as a licensed real estate agent, as you are, for example, is just have conversations with people. So I'll give you an example. One of the things you can do is play a game. So I talk about in this book, Until I Become, which is an international book. I talk about in this book how when I was young, right, I was very scared, very insecure. But what I used to do is I used to take 10 pennies and put them in my left pocket. And every time I'd say good morning, good afternoon, hello, hi to a girl, because I had very low self-esteem, very shy, very insecure, I would take a penny and transfer it from my left pocket to my right pocket. And the goal of the game was by the end of the day was to transfer 10 pennies from my left pocket to my right pocket. And if I didn't, I'd go to 7-Eleven, I'd go to Denny's restaurant that was open 24 hours, and I'd find a way to talk to a girl. So one of the things you can do is every day play a game. You know, I'm going to play the contribution game today. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to talk to 10 strangers. And I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, hello, hi, how are you? Compliment them on something that they're wearing. It could be their hat, could be their scarf, could be their shirt, whatever it is, but be sincere about it and authentic about it. And just find ways to praise and recognize and acknowledge people. I still to this day send out handwritten thank you cards. Still to this day, handwritten thank you cards. You'd be amazed how many people respond because they're like, oh my gosh, you know when the last time, Darren, I got a handwritten thank you card in the mail? It's been years.
Yeah.
And they hold on to that. Postcards. I still send postcards to this day. I go someplace and I send people postcards. They're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen a postcard in years. Because how often do people get snail mail today? Their mailbox. It's all, most of it's digital electronic today. So you go back to what worked years ago. Now, maybe the younger generation, people in their early 20s, they don't resonate and relate to that much. But somebody above 40 years of age, 50, 60, 70 years of age that's buying or selling investing in real estate, they relate to this because they grew up in those times.
Yeah, no, I love that. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned a couple of times now, and something I always talk about, you know, building relationship equity.
Yes.
I think the first time I heard something similar was Gary Vaynerchuk when he talked about always giving at least 51% within the relationship. So you're always giving more than you're taking. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's really driven me in my career across a few industries, but it's always just giving more than you're taking. And, you know, going back to that point you made about, you know, when you had that breakthrough moment, I had the same one when I was selling gym memberships years ago, 10 years ago. I realized if I just educate people instead of trying to sell them, you know, they're going to come. And I think the same applies with real estate. If you just keep offering value to the people in your circle, eventually that will come back to you. It's all about that positive energy and putting out in the world. And just
I have it right here in my. So I have a thing that pops up in my online calendar every day on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And I have, how can I serve you? And I send this as a text message to people, and it gives, what are you working on this week? Question mark. What are you working on this week? What's something you're excited about? Question mark. And what's something you're excited about? And have I added value to someone's life today? So what I do is I just ask people, what are you working on this week? What's something you're excited about? And I have people respond back, I'm working on this project this week, or I'm working on this week. And this is something I'm excited about my week, excited about my kid getting a promotion or some sporting event or something going on. I'm like, great. Is there anything right now that I can be of service and help you with? Anything you need me to help you with? And I've had people say, hey, look, you know, I've got a barbecue happening this weekend. I need to have a recipe on something on barbecue. I know nothing about it, but I just go to Google and I find it. The key thing is always being top of mind and always finding ways to provide value and be in service. So the thing is, if you look at like in real estate, there's many things that you can do just by following up with people because networking is a contact sport and the fortune's in the follow-up. So rather than saying, oh my gosh, I got to try and get a sale here, got to try and get a listing, just say, no, you know, I'm just going to play the networking game and I'm just going to be a network of contribution and find just ways to just be in service and connect with people and not to be attached to anything. And you'd be amazed that because people can energetically feel it when there's an energetic attachment, right? So important. Another thing is integrity. So when I was younger, I had virtually no integrity. And then I had selective integrity. And what I've realized now is that my word creates my world. My word creates my world. So I'm very mindful of what I choose to give my word to because my words have power. Now, I realized through my maturity and through my years of personal professional growth and development is that in my earlier days, I didn't realize that to me, we hear in business that talk is cheap, right? We hear that saying that talk is cheap. I think most people cheapen their talk because their words have no power. And one of the things that when it comes to referrals or endorsements or recommendations, they're like, oh my gosh, I never get any referrals. People never recommend me. You know, these are some of my closest friends. These are my neighbors. These are people who are supposed to love me. And nobody ever recommends me or refers me. What I always share with people is do an audit on yourself. Go do an audit. Go do a check-in and go to those people and say, listen, I'm just curious. I really want to grow and develop my career. I want to really grow and develop myself as a human being. We all have blind spots. If you were just to be honest with me, I'm not going to judge you. I'm totally neutral. I just want to grow and develop. I want to expand. I want to level up. I want to skill up. What are some things that you see in me that I can work on to improve in my life personally and professionally? and just let people, if they're willing to be open with you, tell them what their observation is of you. I've done this with hundreds of people over the years, hundreds of people. And I remember when I used to show up late and I didn't give a crap. And then I realized that I show up and people think I'm unreliable and I just don't care about other people. Right. And so that's why people wouldn't recommend and refer me. So do an audit where you actually go to people and ask them, what are my blind spots? What are things I'm not seeing in my character, in my daily actions, my daily habits, my daily routines? What am I doing that I need to change and adjust? Another big thing that I realized in my life was my calendar, getting intimate with my calendar. So in my life, so what I do is I live everything by my calendar, right? Like everything, I'll show you here. Everything is color coded. Here we go. Everything is, there you won't say here. Everything in my calendar is color coded. Like everything is color coded. I keep track of everything in my calendar. Okay. So here's the key thing. If it's not in your calendar, it does not exist in your life. There's no evidence. So people say to me, Darren, I want to make more money in my real estate career. Okay, great. Where do you have in the next 7 days scheduled in your calendar revenue generating activities, income producing opportunities? People say, Darren, I want to build generational wealth. Okay, great. How many generational wealth programs are you going to take in the next 6 months? What books are you going to read? Podcasts you listen to? Who are you going to go for a breakfast, a lunch, or dinner with, or on a hike? Who are you in conversation with? Who are you in collaboration with? Because your life demonstrates that. So a lot of times people say, well, I want to do all these things, but if it's not in your calendar, it's not going to exist in your life. So that's the key thing is you're like, oh my gosh, Darren, how did you make 400 cold calls a day? How did you call 2,000 people a week? It was all structured in my calendar. And that's the key thing is that people don't have structures, then they don't have accountabilities. So like in myself, for example, in my phone, I have, and you'll see this, I have alarms. So these things here, these all get turned on after this interview today. I will turn on all these things in my alarms. I set alarms for everything in my iPhone. So I'm always on time and I'm always in place. So to me, early is on time and on time is late.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I mean is on time and in place is I'm there and I'm focused, ready to do whatever I got to do. So I set alarms according to my calendar. Okay. So that way I'm impeccable with my word. And then people can rely on me and they can trust me. They're like, oh my gosh, Darren is always accountable to what he says he's going to do. There's always follow through. Because how many times, think about this right now. Think about this. If you were to invite people, you're going to have a dinner party in the next couple of weeks. And I just say, hey, let's just pick 50 people out of your cell phone. And because not all 50 people are going to show up. Let's just pick 50 people. There's some people right now you're thinking, okay, I've got to send them a calendar invitation. I've got to probably send them a text message. I might have to even get them an Uber. I don't even know if they're going to show up. And even if they say they're going to do. And other people, like, if you just text them or call them or message them like, yeah, I call them, boom, they give me their word, they're going to be here. I don't even think about it anymore. But other people are like, yeah, I don't know if they're going to show up. I don't know. It's a gamble, man. I don't know if I'd bet on them. Look at those people, how they show up in their life. And I used to be one of those people. I was somebody that people weren't sure about. Yeah. Now, when somebody asks me, it's done. If I get my word to something, I'm there. So this is a great indication when we're in a slow real estate market to do self-inventory on ourselves is, how am I showing up? How am I showing up to people? What's my character? What's my integrity levels like? Am I an integral person? Because without integrity, nothing works. There's no workability. And I always share with people, whatever area of your life is not working, take a look at where the out of integrities are. So if people don't have the financial abundance that they want in their lives, where are you out of integrity? You don't have your health the way you want it, where are you out of integrity? You give your word to something, you don't follow through on it. People say, Darren, you got so much self-confidence. How did you build self-confidence? You know how I built my self-confidence over a period of time? Was every day that I would wake up, I would look at myself and say, I got all these things I got to do today, my to-do list. I got to do my laundry, got to run errands, make my bed, do all these things. And then when I wouldn't do complete work, wouldn't follow through on doing them, I would diminish my self-worth. And then my trust factor would go down. And what I realized, man, if I don't trust myself, how can I trust other people?
I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, integrity is definitely something that I think a lot of people don't think about. They just kind of, especially when you're talking about your sphere of influence, the people you know in your life, I think there's a danger that you can kind of take that for granted, that relationship, and then you don't show up on time. You don't make I've seen this so many times, people refer people for opportunities in any industry, but we're talking about real estate, and then the person doesn't follow up in time. And then the opportunity is gone, and that's down to integrity again. I want to talk about. I want to talk about.
I always say to people is, can I share one thing? Yeah. What I always share with people when somebody says they're going to get back to me, I always say, okay, great, by when? So it's specific, it's measurable, it's actual. I need a specific. Oh, Darren, I'll get back to you by next Friday. Great. What time? I don't know. Sometime on Friday. By when? So then what I do is when I have by whens, I put alarms in my phone. So I have alarms that go off. Oh, I got an accountability here. I got to get back to him with an email or a text message or a phone call. Yeah. So start being accountable for your buy wins and then structure it with alarms so that you follow through.
Yeah, I love that. Some great advice in here for people to take. I want to switch gears to the book, Until I Become. I grabbed some excerpts. I haven't had the chance to read it yet. I'm definitely going to pick it up. Some excerpts from the website that I thought were quite interesting because they can relate to real estate. The one I loved immediately was, it's easy to get to the top after you get through the crowd at the bottom, and particularly in such a saturated market. Not so much right now because people are starting to get out of the game, but how can real estate agents use that phrase, I guess, or use that idea to get ahead? Yeah,
outwork people. Get up earlier, go to bed later. What I do is I hike. I love hiking now because I used to be fat and overweight. And I hike all the time. It generates more energy for me. So taking care of my body, health and fitness, drinking a lot of water. But the key thing is just outworking people through a network of conversations. When we look at human beings, all we are is a network of conversations. Anything that we really, 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 really want in our lives is going to come from having a network of conversations. So the key thing is set a target every day, right? So what I always do is I do a 3-step process. My personal promise is, let's say 20. My personal promise is 20. My actual is, then fill in the blank. How many telephone calls have you made today? And then my gap is. So if I say my promise is 20 phone calls or 20 conversations, and in my actual, I've already made 4 phone calls. So my gap is 16. So every day my promise is 20. My actual is, fill in the, whatever it is. And then my gap is. So every day I have a three metric, and you want to have a metric system where you keep score of where you're at. And so what I always do is, how do you get to the top? Is just outwork people by a network of conversations. When you realize that people are just human beings running around in these meat suits, and we're just looking to have a conversation, and just start having conversations with people. Next time and just ask people, who do you know is looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Just curious. And pay people referral fees if you can, right? Depends on state and province where you live. Sometimes there's compliance things. But if you can't, then see if you can enter them into a draw or give them a gift certificate or take them out for a dinner and reward people. I've done that before over the years where I would take, I'd say, we're doing a referral dinner. And these are all the people in my network that have referred me business over the last 3 months. I'm taking them out for a dinner, and then I've got 12 people or 10 people or 6 people with me all for dinner. These people have never met before, but now it's a networking opportunity for them to all network over a 2-hour dinner together. Yeah. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I got to sit beside a guy, the guy's going to become my client now. And the guy's a financial planner. Or the guy across from me is a mortgage broker. He's like, oh my gosh, this guy wants to get a mortgage. And he's like, man, I'm going to keep referring you business, Darren, because if you keep doing these dinners, I'm going to keep showing up and getting on the dinner list.
No, I love that. And then quickly, the other one, I refuse to see a crisis without a blessing. Very applicable now, with the real estate market where it is. How can agents kind of take that mindset and adopt that?
You bet. So the key thing is turning a crisis into an opportunity, right? Opportunity zones is what I call them. And the thing is that there's always blessings in disguise, right? What do business owners do? What do entrepreneurs do? We solve problems, right? What do dentists do? What do chiropractors do? Massage therapists do? Plumbers do? Electricians do? They solve problems, these men and women, right? So the key thing is that whenever there's a problem, so whenever I watch CNN News, I don't get depressed. I watch it and say, oh my gosh, here's how I can serve the masses of the population because this is what they're stressed with. Right. So it's the mindset of turning a crisis into an opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. When I was a kid with my rent-a-kid business, man, it's snowing outside. Go knock on the door, shovel the driveway, shovel the sidewalk. Oh my gosh, it's raining. The grass is growing. They don't have time to mow their lawn. Go knock on the door, cut their grass, rake their leaves, walk their dog, take in their mail when they're away on vacation. So always finding ways to provide value to be in service to other people. And being a go-giver, not a go-getter. How can I be a go-giver? And be of service and generosity and joy and love and contribution. So the key thing is that as we're in a down market right now, network of conversations, being out there, being in communication, being in conversation with lots and lots of people. And don't come from a place, oh my gosh, I got to sell real estate, I got to get a listing. Come from a place, I want to just serve and massively serve and contribute to people. And you'd be amazed. And what happens when you're just not attached to the outcome, right? And ask people, next time you're getting your haircut, say, I'm just curious, are you open looking for more clients right now for your hair business? Good. Okay, good. Love to introduce you to some people. And that's what I always do a lot of times. I'm always connecting people as a connector, people to people. I take people out hiking all the time. And I bring people out hiking all the time, and people are like, oh my gosh, I've never been on a hike and generated so much business. Right? Feel like I thought I was just going hiking. I wasn't looking for leads. I wasn't looking to raise money. I wasn't looking to have people join my team. And this is what happened on the hike. So I'm just facilitating opportunities for other people to get people together. When you help other people get what they really want in their lives, Zig Ziglar said you can always have whatever you want in your life.
Yeah.
So being in service to other people, helping other people get what they want. Right?
Yeah, I love that.
If you're a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, an insurance agent, somebody in financial services, somebody in the banking world. Just find out, hey, is there anything I can do for you right now? Anything you need?
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Before we go, I did want to talk about the EXP story a little bit. Obviously a little biased because that's the brokerage I'm signed with, but we do business with brokerages all across the country. What was it that drew you to the company? What is it about EXP that you think is going to, led them to be so fast growing over the years?
Yeah, great question. So when I met Glenn Sanford, the founder of EXP Realty, EXP World Holdings, met him back in 2013. My first impression, because behavior never lies, right? Behavior never lies. When I first met Glenn, I thought, humble man, real estate agent, licensed real estate agent for many years. So he sold single family homes, top producing agent. So he's a real estate agent. So that attracted me to EXP. My background with corporate training, trained a lot of people, right? So could read people really quickly. He was humble. He's integrity, right? Always on time. He was humble. He didn't embellish things. He didn't exaggerate things. He was consistent with his follow-up and follow-through. When I meet with him over the 7-month discovery and due diligence process, what I really got to know and like and trust about him was his word, right? Everything he said, he followed through as deliverables to me. And that built relationship equity with me where I got to know him and like him and trust him.
Yeah.
And then just how his heart to deeply caring about doing what's right in the industry from a compliance standpoint, but also from an agent and broker's perspective. He was really having the agents and the brokers back. It wasn't transactional, like throw them against the wall, recruit the agents and your brokers, throw them against the wall and see who sticks, and just a revolving door of, attraction and attrition, right? Glenn really focused on attraction and retention, but building a global family. And that's what it was. And then the people around him, he really cares about people and he wears his heart on his sleeve. And that's what really, if you look at the growth and scale of today of EXP Realty, and we have a phenomenal success story that I invite people to look at, is our culture and our core values. And our leadership within the EXP organization wears those and lives those every day because behavior never lies. And, as the organization grows to now 90,000 people in 24 countries, I've seen a lot over the last decade being with this company. And it's been an incredible experience. But I always watch people, their character. How are they behind closed doors? How do they treat their children? How do they treat their spouse, partner, significant other, right? And that's what really drew me to EXP, was the integrity, the core values, and the culture and the character.
And then looking forward, where do you see real estate in the next 12 to 18 months? And how can agents, outside of all of the mindset stuff, all the relationships that we talked about, how can they prepare themselves and make any kind of changes they need to for how real estate will be?
We're going to see a lot of disruption, a lot of changes. Artificial intelligence will play a role internationally on that to some degree, some level. We're going to see some consolidation. As you know, there's been a lot of lawsuits internationally here in the last while. It's been in the news media. We've seen a lot of companies, real estate companies, have a lot of financial debt with all their bricks and mortar and all their financial overhead. We see an aging population of the people who've been around for many years, the senior executives, people in administration roles that have worked internally, that are baby boomers now. They're going to be retiring in the next few years, 18 to 24 months, a mass exit of a lot of people. And so those jobs either have to be replaced or refilled, or offshored, or using some kind of system or process or artificial intelligence. So there's major transformation and disruption and change. And I would say the key thing is you got to find a good company that has lots of training and development, because you're going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have good days and bad days, right? With that, you're going to have a great compensation plan, and realizing that as you're trading time for money as a commission salesperson, as you get older, unless you've got cash reserves or multiple revenue streams or investment properties or different investment asset classes, that you want to realize that at the end of the day, when you're done your real estate career, there's no generational wealth planning, right? Nobody's going to buy your book of business because then they have to cold call everybody. So you got to look at, where do you see yourself, not only short term, but long term? And then what do you see as your exit strategy? And then what are you doing this for? What's your why, right? So the next 18 to 24 months, the company that you're working with right now as a licensed agent, is this agency got your back? Are they there to support you during the peaks and valleys? Are they help to provide training development for you? Are you creating that culture that you feel energized and inspired and you feel fulfilled in your life? Or are you going home at the end of the day completely exhausted and drained and low energy? Because I've met many, many people over the years with different real estate brokerages that are just exhausted because it's a toxic environment.
Right.
So these are things you got to look at as part of your due diligence of, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in 18 to 24 months? Because there's going to be a lot of disruption, a lot of changes, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of different things are going to happen internally with a lot of these companies internationally. And you got to realize, as you got to sit at that table, is that, you got to start to notice, especially I've noticed over the years, when your top income producers start making moves, start paying attention, okay? Because when the big players are moving to a different brokerage or doing different things, changing up their game, you got to change up your strategy as well. Don't get left behind. Follow what the big players are doing.
Love that. Like I said, so much great information in here. Where can people find you, hear more from you, see more from you? Where are the best places to go?
Yeah, great question. People can always Google my name. I'm all over social media. If people want to spend some time with me, people always want to take me out for breakfast, lunches, or dinners. I don't do that a lot now, but what I do is I do a program called Hiking for a Cause. With our foundation, we've committed to building 100 schools across the world. So if people go to hikingfundraiser.com, and put their name and information there, I do hiking for causes all over the world. And I bring people out, we come hiking from all different age groups, all different walks of life. It's a great networking opportunity. Even if you're single and you're looking to dating, there's some great catches there of men and women, some great single people you can connect and interact with. You're in business, you're trained, you're in changes. If you've got kids, bring them out. It's a great environment to put them into, called E2E, Elevate to Educate. We go to hikingfundraiser.com and you come out, and the money that we collect from the hikes and the sponsorship then goes to build a new school. So you get to be a part of building a school for some of the most impoverished children on the planet. And you'll get a chance to spend some time with me because I'm on all the hikes.
Awesome. That sounds like a great idea. I'm sure we'll get some people signing up from this.
That'd be great.
Darren, thank you very much. That was great.
My pleasure. Yeah, I'm grateful to be here and be in service.